Aloha. I wanted to share some information and how I perceive 9/11 and this whole thing, and considering today's 9/11, and I guess briefly share my personal experience in 9/11, being that I was active duty in the Army at that time, and just share the atmosphere and then expand it from that point to now. But first, I wanted to start by setting the foundation of how I perceive the entire scenario, because you can see like how Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are. They are puppets, so everybody knows they're puppets. But what are they puppets for, and what do those puppets do? So those puppets are in front of you to get you to think and act a certain way, as if you're engaged or if you're in the know about something, as if the news is supposed to inform you. It's not. It's supposed to distract you and condition you and program you to think and act a certain way. This entire slave state mind control program goes down to the very essence of politics itself, down to the earth that we are standing on, the earth that we live on. And every single thing is connected by 0 degrees of separation. So that's why when everybody was talking about this Bernie shit, I damn near lost my shit, because I was just thinking, like, what are you doing? Where did this come from? How could you go from consciousness and spirit and soul to Bernie Sanders back into the slave mind? This is the same shit that happened in the civil rights time frame. It's the same thing. It's a distraction from something. Doggy treats, constantly giving you something. This is why we have NASA and Neil deGrasse Tyson and even Barack Obama going on television on Discovery Channel talking about we're going to go to Mars and we're going to do all this stuff. And Michelle Obama going into the school systems talking about we need to revamp schools and do all this stuff. And have Bernie Sanders out there talking about, well, we're going to go after the bankers and get people minimum wage raises and free education and free health care and all this other stuff. This is all a slave mind program. This entire system is based on a parasitic mindset. The entire system has to go. This is magic. This is dark magic, from the roots to the fruits, all the way through and in and out of your generations, including the Constitution, especially the flag and all the flags that are all over the earth plane. Through your technology, through social media, through the university system, through these individuals you call leaders in politics, through the entire system as a whole. This is why you have to be distracted by the idea of planets and planets with water and Mars and going to the moon. All of this is a big movie to distract you. And as there are 0 degrees of separation between Barack Obama and Alex Jones and the Young Turks, and the Young Turks and the secret space program, and the secret space program and Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton and the transhumanism program, and the transhumanism program and the military industrial complex, and the prison industrial complex, the colonial program, and the university system as a whole, the public education system, everything. It's all one storyline. The only way you can be trained and tricked to believe that it's separate is to have it compartmentalized and have your emotional bodies triggered here and there, as if this is what you should be focusing on. But that's not the case. The case is who is telling you what to focus on and how that shit even got manipulated to come into effect in the first place. So like for me, a perfect example, when I was a private, a brand new nothing in the Army, that morning I was on grass cutting detail, and I was picked, and I was telling my squad leader, like, man, I was the last one to get picked to go on grass cutting detail. I was just like, man, I don't want to go. But so we were going to NCO club to cut the grass, and then this car pulls up, and then somebody jumps out of the car and leave the door open, and the radio's on, and they're saying, oh yeah, the Twin Towers just got hit by a plane, or the Twin Towers just got hit by, something happened at the Twin Towers. Everybody needs to go back to their unit. So we're like, what? Everybody goes back to the unit. You have all these mid 20-year-old kids, basically, and early 20-year-old children, and who are now like amped up to go fight anything. You've already signed a contract to go. You have people running around trying to beef themselves up, talking about, yeah, let's go do this, let's go. I know it was this, I know it was that, based upon the news. Waiting for the news to tell them who they should go give their lives away for. Because this is the movie program, it's the idea of it all. So this is what happened to the soldiers in the barracks, where we're just sitting in there watching the news, watching this happen. You have the people at home doing the same thing. Then you have your leaders come out and say, well, these people did it, and we have to go here. Go where? Well, now, since they got you by the balls with your emotional balls, they can do anything. They can say anything. So they say one thing, and that traces back to Afghanistan. But now they can do anything. So they might as well do what something else before they do what they have to do. So this is what Iraq was. To go in there, get the oil, get the gold, put the military bases there, get Saddam out of there, and then go into Iraq or Afghanistan, because people will still be pumped up. They'll be juiced, so they'll still go to war, and they know this war is going to last forever. And they call it a war on terror, which is just going to last. It's not. There's nothing there. You can do that forever. Meanwhile, billions of dollars are being siphoned out of your tax dollars, out of food off of your kids' plate, into an illusion. An illusion that was set up by the same people who are telling you to go send your children to go fight for this illusion in the first place. This power is sent down through the university system. This is where people don't realize the degrees of separation, because we so cherish our degrees and our logic and our intellect and the evolution program and the Big Bang and our smarts and the technology and everything's smart. This is why it's so crucial to realize how it's all connecting, how it's all one storyline. Back in the day, when the kings and the queens ruled over the peasants, so-called peasants, the commoners, which is what we're calling the 99% today. When the kings and queens back in the day ruled over the 99% back then, they ruled with the idea of power sent down by God. God empowers them. And then the only way they back them up, that's why they can wear that crown, the same crown that's being worn today by the Queen of England. That power sent down by God. God, the same God that they told you to worship through the religion that was installed through the fear installment program, which in the Americas we know today as the Christian, the religion installing of Christianity, and the Jesus programming, and the Catholic programming in South America. All of it's one storyline to get you to believe in the God that empowers the crown that the enslavers are wearing. And over time, it will just become your reality. As long as you separate from your natural environment, your natural spirit, your natural connections. This is about installing the program of the body first, then to the mind, which is controlled by the control system, then to the soul, if you're lucky. And even if you're in the majority of that 99% version of the soul or the spirit is siphoned through the religious programming. When in fact, you are the infinite soul as a reflection from the spirit, having a mind that is within the body. First, in that order. So this is how it's flipped backwards and upside down. This is how we are convinced that we are believe in the monkey mind evolution program that leads all the way up to technology as of today. There is no separation. So back in the day, the kings and the queens were empowered by the rule of law sent down from God, maintained by fear and the destructive intelligence. Today's version of that rule is actually the university system itself. What powers the military-industrial complex is the intellect and the logic, so-called logic, that is maintained within the colonial university program. When we supposedly went to the moon, what did that do in the 60s? What did that do to the collective consciousness? What did that do in the whole war, or with Russia and everything? This is how these programs get installed, and then over time they just become your reality. See, there were people back in that time frame who were understanding that was total bullshit. They understood. They just weren't. It wasn't televised. They didn't have social media to share that stuff. They knew it was garbage. They knew it was full of shit, and they knew it was a distraction to sell another program in. But you won't hear you won't hear that today, because it's about controlling how you think and what you learn and what you focus on. This is what the television and social media and the internet is as a whole, and the university system as a whole. So now they don't need God to empower the crown of the President of the United States, or the crown of the White House, or the crown of the Congress, or the crown of the Pentagon, or the crown of the colonial system as a whole. They maintain their ideas through NASA, through the university system, through the ideas of logic and intellect that maintains the creature comforts that you live by today. So the bread that was thrown out in the gladiator arena to the peasants in the stands, that today is the iPhone 7. They're throwing iPhone 7s out there because you didn't work for that. Like you're stuck in the fiat currency system. So instead of being stuck in an idea of having bread thrown at you because that's your basic human needs, now they've evolved it with the level of consciousness that the collective consciousness has evolved to organically. Now they just can't throw bread at you. They have to throw a fucking smartphone at you in order to get you to believe in the system. Who made that smartphone? Intellectuals who came out of the university system. What is made outside of the smartphone? Well, rockets that go to NASA, drones, rockets that blow other people up, that keep us safe, that keep the flag in power, that keep the whole colonial system afloat. So it's the illusion of fear that we actually manipulate as and call it freedom. It's a ridiculous. It's no different than the soldiers were acting and feeling with that limited frame of consciousness. And now I'm willing to bet that the large majority of the same soldiers that were running around on that barracks floor that I was working with at that time frame, the majority of them know what the fuck is going on now with 9/11 and had no idea back then. In fact, were willing, and a good amount of them did, go overseas to go back this system up. So instead of God, your new God backing up the crown, your new God is the evolution program, the Big Bang Theory, the university system. Neil deGrasse Tyson is your new pope, the idea of who and what you are. So we have to protect this system we understand as the capitalist democracy of the United States of America, which they so refer to as the America. It's not. It's watered down everything and building up the generic program. And this goes all the way down to your spirit, because this entire program exists on the blood and the bones of the indigenous people all across the earth plane. The Native Americans, the Aboriginal Americans, everybody is sitting here. The bones of this program, the bones of your ancestors are just underneath this surface. And stuff like 9/11, when people call 9/11 an inside job and a false flag and all that, so that's still missing the whole point of the entire colonial system being a mind control program. And that's why I said earlier, this whole shit has to go. If you are fighting within the system, which is what calling this a false flag and all this other stuff, that's still in the system. Yes, people do have to go through these information streams in order to get to a certain place. That is understood. What I'm saying is that the box program itself, literally a box, and I'll get to that in a second. The box program itself is the earth, spiritual, or what your idea of earth is, what your idea of nature is, what your idea of human nature is, what your idea of civilization is, the definitions of these ideas, the very nature of your humanity, the nature that you can find in the child's perspective, the childlike reality. That has been all but completely severed and erased from the mainstream understandings of how we can live our lives, and replaced with this distractionary grid of, well, we're just going to have to do what we got to do. That is the hopeless program. That's why Obama was installed in there selling hope and change, because it's the exact opposite constantly. Just as easily as you can understand that you are a representation of the spirit as your soul who has a mind to work with your body, the program is flipped backwards to have you focus on the materialistic version of reality with all these malls, this makeup, these titties and ass everywhere, and then just everything about physical reality, marriage programming, what kind of car you got, how you look when you're going to the gym constantly, never working on your character or connecting with people on a deeper level. It's all about the body. A manipulation, and then into a manipulation of the mind, so you don't even know how to. In fact, your body is genetically modified to stay broken down and depend on the system as a whole. And then if your mind is manipulated to the extremes, you will go into defend this program by going into the military. And if your parents and your generations are the same way, they will allow their children, and in fact tell their children, you need to go do this on their own. This is how deep this program goes. Completely severed from the natural law, humanity as a whole. The storyline of the oil company today, going on sacred burial grounds. This entire nation, we call a nation, is a burial ground. The entire nation. Specifically, these locations, and I'll get into this, these locations, this is an act, this is a spiritual act. This is a spiritual act that is happening. And it's being watched to see what people will do. Stuff like the $2.3 trillion that was mentioned by Rumsfeld the day before 9/11, magically not being any part of the story anymore. This energy, that's money, food off of your baby's plate in taxes, sent to wherever, George Bush. This whole program has to go. It's done. If you're still defending it or hoping that this system will change, it's not meant to change. It was never meant to be for you at all. This is still a shallow version of reality. This whole never forget, torture, spying, assassinations, detention, endless war, government secrets, foreign military bases, defense budget, police state, all this stuff. This is part of, this is how the web is designed. All this stuff has to stop. So if you're still like defending the flag and talking about politics and any of this conspiracy shit that still exists in the box and not connecting at all to the indigenous storyline, then you're going to fall for the other trap, which is that new age, new world agenda program that they're getting ready to activate, which is the next civil rights doggy treats. It'll just be international rights and call human rights. And they'll probably utilize it just like they're talking about this whole Obama saying that he's not going to leave office if Donald Trump gets elected. You think that's a mistake? He doesn't get elected. They get selected. And for him to even say something like that is just proof that they're getting ready to do something like that. And Trump is no different than Hillary. If he says that stuff for Trump, the same thing goes for Hillary. She's a criminal. And they're friends. It's the same thing. I made a video about this a few months back talking about Prime Minister Obama when he just puts another crown on his head, which is, this is just the crown of distraction. That's what this is. These military bases got to get shut down. All this stuff will happen at some point in time, but at least this video is just to share like how far I see that the human collective needs to start paying attention or expanding the storyline to see what's really going on here. Because until we start expanding as far as we can go, you'll just be spinning your wheels forever, constantly being a slave. That's why that Bernie shit was so, I was so pissed off by that inside. The only thing I could do was address it from how it was being played from the people who were around, but people who are really believing in that shit. This is slave state. Slavery never ended. The 14th Amendment, it just activated it into a different word. The civil right, or a different frame of thought. It just put it just like paper genocide. It's the same shit. Like the civil rights time frame, there were no rights there. Nothing really changed. It just morphed, transmuted into the war on drugs and installing crack into the inner cities, installing Uzis and guns into the inner cities, and going to war and putting army commercials everywhere. And the war on terror. That's slavery. It's slavery, fighting for illusions. Constantly they're telling you never forget. Never forget what? Never forget 1492. Never forget the beginning of the colonial enslavement program. Never forget the colonization of Africa. Never forget that the British Empire, which is the papa for the United States Empire, that the British Empire nearly made the Aboriginal Australians go extinct. They had slaughtered the Aboriginal Australians to the brink of extinction, so much so that they had to be stopped by their own people. And even beyond that, they had to put the remaining Aboriginals on an island so that they could reproduce, so they didn't make them go extinct. They almost made an entire race of beings go extinct. This is Barack Obama. This is Bernie Sanders. This is Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. There is no separation between the same crown that almost made the Aboriginal Australians and the Native Americans go extinct. And the only way you can believe that it's okay is because you have a smartphone, you have minimum wage, the university system, and the illusion that you went to the moon first or whatever. All this stuff. These are all lies. Transhumanism, CERN program, anything that's organic that's happening. Your own memories are even being manipulated when they say CERN's doing this, and you start looking into the Mandela effect stuff and they say, well, CERN's doing this. And then you got people out there with YouTube channels defending the enslavement program, saying, well, CERN is smashing protons together, and that's just, you guys are crazy. It's just, this is It's literal spiritual magic. And they tell you how to think, tell you what's important constantly. The television tells you this stuff on a regular basis. It's not for anybody until it's energy. Like when I say this stuff, I'm speaking so that energetically people can start to let this stuff go inside, so that will allow the space to allow these to open up to whatever can be done next. To let go of the slave program, one little piece of information at a time, because that's how it has to happen. And the more you get in tune, like these are majority of these are just seeds for people who hadn't looked into a lot of stuff. Then they're going to research it, and then they're going to know something, and then they're going to share it with somebody else, and so on and so forth. That's how the consciousness expands. And this is what we don't really see, is that this control grid adjusts to the expansion of consciousness and that velocity and what's happening in that world. It doesn't work the other way around. They want to make you think that it works the other way around, to where you are adjusting to them. No, they are adjusting to you. The smarter you are, the more informed you are, the less that control grid can do to you. This is why it's so crucial to stop doing what it is that we are being told to do. Stop believing we are being told to believe, and stop hoping for anything within the system as a whole. 9/11 is no different than smallpox blankets. 9/11 is no different than what the British Empire did to the Aboriginal Australians and the Aboriginal Americans and the Native Americans. It's the same storyline. In order to protect the magic spell of fear and domination over your soul. This is a spiritual warfare. And as long as we keep playing these shallow storylines, yes, 9/11 is a fucking shallow storyline. It's a bad movie. It's a horribly bad movie being told to be your reality. Conditioning you to create your reality through the system itself. Predictive programming. Locking you in. Making you think. Just as easily as you can understand that you can't actually do anything until you think about it. Well, that exists in the ethers. So that is affecting your thought process, and then you do something. On the extreme fucked up versions is people do some ridiculously dark things to other people, like 9/11, and individually killing other people, the same shit. It's because this manipulation of that mind which puts the body in action. So what do you think the television and social media and the education system and the university system as a whole is doing? It's manipulating your mind to stay within the focus of a slave mentality. Not for you to vote. That's just one layer. For you to give your soul away. This is what the birth certificate program is. This is what the maritime admiralty system is based upon. Pirate law. Pirating your soul. Teaching you to give the soul of your baby away to a system. Listening to assholes like this. This guy was the president of the United States. Most people won't even, and if he was this old and in high school, he wouldn't even be elected to the president of the sophomore class as the person he is. Feel that shit out, and then realize that he was selected as the president of the United States. You don't think that was on purpose? And then all of a sudden 9/11 happened. Coincidence? This shit is a storyline. It's a very intricate storyline. This guy, you're looking at his face right now. You are looking at the little brother of Barack Obama. It's the same shit. It's the same storyline. Bernie Sanders is the stepbrother. It's the same thing. It's one story. It makes you believe into it consistently, over and over and over again. This 9/11, what 9/11 to the United States is what Columbus is to the Native Americans. 9/11 is to the United States what Christopher Columbus is to the Americas as a whole, but the Native Americans and the indigenous people specifically. Just as the colonial program is the 9/11 of the entire earth, people, humanity. This is how far this storyline goes. But if they compartmentalize it and suck your focus into installing your emotion into a program of invest your energy here, vote here, think about this, do this. If you're 3 layers behind the surface of the truth, then they can sell you anything. And since you're constantly in a hopeless, bombarded by a hopeless state of being, telling you what your leaders are, telling you what your connection to nature is, telling you that you are a monkey, telling you that you came from a cosmic mistake in the Big Bang, telling you that you came from dinosaurs and these ridiculous ideas, separating you from your roots and installing these synthetic versions of your fruits, which is NASA going to the moon, going to the Mars, other life on other planets and all this other stuff, never paying attention to anything that's going here on the earth plane. Everybody knows all this stuff. This is all known. But people say, well, what can we do about it? First, you have to let go of this stuff and understand how far it goes to disassemble the whole thing. And see how deep this goes. You can see like this meme was created by this term limits for uscongress.com. I share this because it's an obvious statement. Or are you worried about spending, who spends the next 4 or 8 years here? Corrupt politicians are spending 30 to 40 years here. Come to term limits for uscongress.com and help us out. This program, this website, is the same program that the Congress that they're supposedly bringing down. It still exists in the box. This is a shallow layer. So this is how this whole thing works. The entire program try to sell you partial truth in order for you to believe the majority of the lies that exist on top of a dried out, festering root foundation. Same thing goes with this 99% shit. The 99% and the 1%. It's an illusion. A total illusion. We are 99%. when you call yourself 99%, and then there's the 1%, then you're saying like I don't even want to go there. I want to say that for another video. But basically, that whole idea, it still means you're 99% asleep because you're still existing inside of a box. This is a map of the shell mounds in the Bay Area in 1909. These were all kick-it spots and burial grounds. So where everybody who came to the Bay Area back in the day hung out. Thousands and tens of thousands of years ago. The biggest shell mound in the Bay Area, like in the last video I said that in San Jose they were speaking a different language than they were in Oakland and San Francisco. This is how diverse everybody was and how intelligent everybody was. So much so that we had our own languages and everything. It was just tight until the paper genocide and the actual literal genocide came and installed the colonial program. This is another example of how deep this goes and how the 9/11 actually, the 9/11 of the humanity, because everybody is underneath this war on terror right now. When you got these military bases all over the place, that's an enslavement program. Those have to be shut down. This whole thing has to go. So the 9/11 of humanity is another example. This is why this whole burial ground stuff in the Dakotas is coming about, because this is how far it needs to go. You have people talking about rights and freedom and all this other stuff. Well, you're going to have all these other people talking about what's really going on. And given your level of consciousness and how willing you are to expand yourself, you're going to choose where you think and what you think about. The biggest kick-it spot, the biggest burial ground, was the Emeryville shell mound. Right on this little tip right here. Right here somewhere. In North Oakland. Right where the bridge is, right at the base of the Bay Area Bridge. The Bay Bridge. There was the biggest kick-it spot there. When the colonial program came, they cut that burial ground down, which was 2 stories tall and a city block wide, and put this dance pavilion on top of it. Bones. Literally dancing on bones. This is what this program does. This is what is happening today. There's zero humanity there. Zero. This was the shell mound. Their bones. That was a burial ground. How long did it take for that to... This is a testament to how long it took for that to be created. How long the people had been there. Bones buried 2 stories tall and a city block long and wide. They showed up and cut this down and put a dance pavilion on it. Think they didn't know when they cut that down they were dancing on bones? This is a spiritual warfare. Zero humanity. If you don't connect back with your humanity, if you try to fix this system or be a part of this system, if you're talking about the Constitution and the flag, if you're talking about Obama and Bernie Sanders, if you're talking about any of this New World Order shit and all this other stuff that they're getting ready to install, if you accept that program, you are accepting an extended version of the slave program. And you are setting your children up for failure. Future generations. The true history of humanity is a lot deeper than the university program. And they won't tell you that because the university system and the evolution program itself is their God. That's how they can maintain the illusion of power over you. by saying that they're the most intellectual beings from the monkey mind evolution program. So we're the smartest. Don't you see? We have Stanford and Harvard and UC Berkeley. What more do you want? Yeah, the smartest thing is to go to war. The smartest thing is to go to the moon. The smartest thing is to talk about this. All illusions. You pay for it. That burial ground went from a dance pavilion, this cut down, turned into a dance pavilion. Older than the pyramids. Later on, the next level, they turned it into a Sherwin-Williams. They built a Sherwin-Williams on it. The toxic ass, and you can see the actual logo for Sherwin-Williams. How this is a spiritual warfare. All those toxins from that paint company soaking into the bloods of the bones of the ancestors. This is literally what that logo represents, literally what's happening to the earth plane as a whole. Blood. Until we realize we have to let it go. All of it has to go. Can't get consumed by the emotional triggers of what's placed out there for you to believe in. They're going to put all these tributes and memorials on television. That's for you to stay in that vibration and never question beyond it. These are magicians. Every year, the Ohlone go back and protest this mall. Because now, there's a mall built on top of that burial ground. The people in Dakota, in the Dakotas right now, are trying to stop this from happening. This has happened all over the place. One of the main ones, I share this one because this is my hometown. That's where my family is. And that earth is the Ohlone peoples. From one layer of understanding, they were taking care of the earth. Their ancestors were in that place and are still there. And it's not like it's not an ownership thing. It's in harmonics. It's a relationship between the people and the land. See, this program, the colonial program, is about ownership and dominance. And that leaks over to the human population. They want land, now they want people. They got people, now they want your soul. It's a game. The mound sat mostly undisturbed until 1876 when an amusement park, Shell Mound Park, was opened at the site. A dance hall was built over the mound. With the passage of Prohibition, attendance declined and the park closed in 1924. The Ohlone lived along the shore in what would become Emeryville, California. The Ohlone created what was one of the largest shell mounds in the area, a combination of burial site, midden pile, and religious location. The mound was 60 feet tall, made up of clam, mussel, and oyster shells, charcoal, animal bones, and the bodies of dead Ohlone. It's a burial site, a religious, sacred burial ground. Every year, this is happening. Every year. Once these stories start getting shared all around and start seeing that this is not an isolated incident, the 9/11 for humanity is a colonial program. The 9/11 for the Native Americans and the Aboriginal Americans was Columbus. The emotional program wants to get you locked into thinking that it's only about one thing. No, this is a program. This is a slave state for your soul. This is what's built there now. This mall, AMC, Banana Republic, Gap, Victoria's Secret, Popcornology, Apple Store, PF Chang's, Barnes and Nobles, Forever 21, AT&T. Everything that is a mall is in this place. These people are walking on bones right now. This is the disconnect of humanity. This is a prime example of this whole 9/11 story as a whole. This is what the humanity has gone to. The monkey evolution program. In the last video, this is what Michael Jackson was talking about in his Dangerous album when he put that monkey on top with that crown that wasn't touching that monkey's head. It was just hovering above it. This is what's built on top of the burial. That whole thing, that's what was there. You see that cube right there where that black, gap symbol is? This is that spiritual energy. Spiritual warfare. This is on the beginning of that road into the mall. This is what Michael Jackson was talking about in his Escape album. For people who know about this symbolism, this is that occult program that is working on your soul, hidden in plain sight, hidden in every commercial that you're watching, every movie that you're watching, every song that you hear from the pop culture, in your kids' cartoons, in the education system, in the university system. This is magic to lock everybody down. And these are these symbols that are placed everywhere, strategically placed. But you won't know about it because that energy is not. And once you start unveiling it and realizing that it exists, you start to take away that power. But you have to take action on it after that and keep expanding. This video has gone on long enough. I'll go into the next. I have some ideas as far as what we can do, taking one thing at a time. Yeah, I want to end it here because this is I pretty much tapped on what I wanted to talk about in reference to 9/11. I don't want to take anything away for the 9/11 victims or anything like that. What I'm saying is that that's only a chapter to a book that is very thick. And if we don't read the entire book, you'll just fall subject to another chapter in that book of collective and self-destruction. Down to the soul level. So, thank you for joining me. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.